So walk us through what it's like on the applicant side. Like, what does that process look like for them compared to a traditional hiring process?
Yeah, in terms of interacting with the model, most candidates are used to having an online questionnaire of some sort, and that's
Mhm.
exactly the same experience that we give them. It's always less than 20 minutes. Our shortest one is 7 minutes, and it's
Okay.
just a series of questions. That's it. So the
Is it
candidate
kind of like a
experience isn't
quiz
different.
or is it like contact information?
It's ranking things. So you might have a
Okay.
series of words that you're going to rank. If you've ever taken an online personality test,
Yeah,
it's
that's what I was
very
thinking.
much like that.
Okay.
The difference is that we're less interested in personality, and it's sort of personality became sort of the hero thing people went to use for understanding their employees, and really personality profiles focus on two things: introversion and extroversion. Right? Are they outgoing, or do they like to be by themselves? And sometimes they add a third thing, which is cognitive intelligence.
Hmm.
The problem is science doesn't really support that those things are predictive of success. It just tells me this is how they're going to show up, right? Are they going to be friendly? Are they going to pay attention to detail? But it doesn't tell me the quality of their work. How long will they stay with me? So functionally, Khalil, the experience for the candidate is very similar to a behavior assessment. But what we're doing is we're assessing all of I can't use gestures and a microphone at the same time. The We're assessing against things that we have research validated actually do predict for that role.
Hmm.
And the other key difference is we're using actual performance data that has been garnered from the field from real people doing that job. And most assessments are sort of intellectually saying, what do I think is required for that job?
Wow.
And sometimes the results are surprising. I'll give you two examples real quick. One we did for the cleaning. So we have a profile that predicts cleaning quality and flight risk. Those are the two things that we do for a home cleaner.
Okay.
And we created the profile for home cleaners. And we actually, one of the things that we found is, let me ask you a question first. If you were hiring somebody and they're sitting across from you, if somebody's sincere, how would you rate that as an employer thinking about hiring the person? Just
How would I judge
intuitively.
that they are sincere?
Yeah, if
I
they
would.
were really, if they were sincere, would that be a good thing or a bad thing in your opinion?
Oh,
I
gotcha.
think it would be a good thing.
I would think good thing.
Yeah, almost 100%, universally. They're sitting across from me. They're very sincere. They're forthright. I love this, right? So, if we're using our gut and intuition, we're actually ranking them higher and higher. Here's what the data suggests: is the more sincere a house cleaner is, the less time they spend in the role. They churn out quickly, and the quality of their work is less.
Very
That's
interesting.
what science and data will tell you. Now, the next thing that happens, people go, well, why is that the case, right? Our curiosity kicks in. And I
Yeah.
always give this caveat. The why that's true doesn't really matter as much as it is true, and it'll impact your outcome. But in talking to owners of cleaning services, when we ask them, does this ring true for you? In hindsight, they said, well, I wouldn't have ever thought about it that way. But what I do find is if somebody's really sincere, if they show up at the home and the homeowner's in a grouchy mood or they blame them for something that wasn't their fault, they take that really personal, and it's hard for them to maintain that smiling disposition and keep peace with the homeowner. And that's why we propose that they probably burn out with a higher sincerity level. But
Yeah, maybe they should be
that's the
handling.
sort of insights we're getting to.
Very interesting. So they need more resiliency.
Yeah, that's it. So, but it's not any one trait by itself. What we're trying
Sure.
to look at is what is that blend of traits. So sincerity. Another example, large retailer thinks like going in and somebody selling you phones and laptops and that sort of thing in a retail environment. We created a profile for this particular company. I can't share their name publicly like this because it was private work that we did for them. But they had a 50% turnover in that role.
Hmm.
And more than 50% of the people that stayed in the role were missing their target. And they had a really highly defined hiring process around two things. One was customer orientation, and the second was love of technology. And that's all their screening was around that. Their gut told them those were the right things, but they weren't getting the results they wanted.
Yeah.
We evaluated their store executives against the data. We found zero correlation to customer orientation and success in the job.
Wow.
Doesn't mean that you don't want somebody to treat your customers right, but as a screening tool of am I going to hire them, it wasn't the path that they should be looking at. More disturbing was the more somebody professed a love of technology, the poorer they did in the role. There was actually a negative correlation. So they were actually trusting their gut and saying, I'm going to hire somebody who loves technology, treat the customer right. And those two things were actually the things that were seeding high turnover in that role. And so they went from over 50% churn in that role inside of a 2-month time period to under 10%.
Wow.
Just being able to hire correctly. And that has a massive impact because I think most of your contractors would suggest that if they can get somebody to stay 6 months, they can get them to stay a year. And if they stay a year, they're probably going to have them 2 years, right? If they have them 2 years, they're probably going to keep them 20. Like there's sort of increasing length of stay. And it's really that early tenure churn that you're trying to identify.